if you're watching this, it means I made a mistake. I told myself I wouldn't share this, that I would let it rot in the back of my mind, like a dream you never speak of, because the moment you say it out loud, it becomes real. But silence hasn't protected me. If anything, it's made things worse. I keep hearing her voice at night, the sing-song rhythm of a children's cartoon, broken, jagged, wrong. And I know I can't keep this to myself anymore. This isn't a story about a show you loved as a kid, turning out to be creepier than you remember. This isn't some cheap nostalgia bait. This is about something I should have never seen, something that wasn't supposed to exist, and the way it's been bleeding into my life ever since. The first time I found it, it wasn't in some dark corner of the internet or in a box of forgotten VHS tapes at a yard sale. No, it was on live television. One night, one airing, and then it was gone, scrubbed from every archive and streaming service as if it had never happened. And yet I saw it. Dora the Explorer. A show that should have been nothing more than bright colors, catchy songs, and harmless adventures. You remember it, don't you? That sing-along map, the talking backpack, the fox who was always told, "Swiper, no swiping." The kind of wholesome, repetitive children's programming that parents trusted to keep their kids busy for 22 minutes at a time. That's not what I saw. What I saw was different, distorted. And even now, I'm not sure if it was meant for anyone to see at all. The episode began like any other cheerful theme song, animated jungle. But even in those first few seconds, I knew something was wrong. The colors were too sharp, almost bleeding off the screen, and Dora's voice, it dragged, like someone slowing down a record with their finger. I've been avoiding describing the worst of it. Not because I don't remember, but because I do. Too clearly. There's one scene in particular, a moment so grotesque, so fundamentally wrong, that just thinking about it makes my stomach twist. I won't describe it here. Not yet. Maybe not ever. All I'll say is this. If you've ever believed that cartoons are safe, that their simplicity shields you from anything truly horrifying, you're wrong. I was wrong. And once you've seen what I've seen, you can't unsee it. I've been debating for weeks whether to share this. Part of me hopes that telling you will take the weight off my chest, like confessing a crime you didn't mean to commit. But another part of me knows that speaking it into existence only invites it back, like calling something by name. Still, I can't hold it in anymore. You need to understand what was hidden that night, what the world wasn't supposed to see. Because if it happened once, it can happen again. And God help us if it does. You remember the backpack song? Yeah, so do I, except not like this. That's the thing about childhood memories. They feel safe because they're simple. When I think back to the years when Dora the Explorer was on TV, I remember the bright colors, the happy little jingles, and the way Dora would always stop, mid-sentence, waiting for us to shout the answer back at the screen. My parents used to laugh at how seriously I took it, answering every single question like she could actually hear me. Dora wasn't just a show, it was a ritual. Kids woke up early or sat cross-legged in front of the TV after school, their eyes glued to this wide-eyed cartoon girl with a bob haircut and a purple backpack. She made you feel like you mattered, like she was talking to you and no one else. And maybe, at the time, that was comforting. The episodes were predictable. Dora had a goal: find the rainbow, visit the castle, get to the fiesta. Along the way, she'd ask for our help. Where's the bridge? Do you see the river? And we, the children who trusted her implicitly, would point at our screens and yell out answers, waiting for her to clap and say, "My bien." There was something genius in that design. Dora wasn't just teaching kids Spanish or problem solving. She was teaching us participation, engagement, conditioning us to answer back when prompted. It didn't feel sinister then. It just felt fun. The backpack was always full of just the right items. The map would always sing that ridiculous song. Swiper would appear at the worst moment, only to be defeated by the chant, "Swiper, no swiping." And at the end, there was always a celebration: Dora and Boots dancing, music blaring, everyone smiling. Every episode was a tiny guarantee that things would end happily. But you see, guarantees can be broken. Looking back, there were tiny glitches I noticed in reruns long before the tape. Moments so small that most people probably missed them. Like an extra beat of silence between Dora's question and her response, as if the show was waiting longer than usual for you to speak. Or a flicker in the background where the colors didn't quite match and the animation seemed to skip. At the time, I told myself it was just poor editing. But after what I saw, I can't shake the idea that those were cracks in the facade, tiny leaks of something darker bleeding through. It's strange, isn't it? How something meant to be innocent can start to feel dangerous once you know what lies beneath it. I almost wish I could go back to the version of myself that thought Dora was harmless. That thought, "Swiper, no swiping," was just a silly phrase and not, well, not what it became. You might be wondering how I ended up with a copy of the episode. If it aired once, if it was erased from every archive, then how could I possibly hold proof in my hands? I've asked myself that question too many times. And the answer is what pulled me deeper than I ever intended to go. I didn't find it lying in plain sight. I didn't stumble across it while channel surfing. Someone, something wanted me to see it, and they made sure I did. That's where the story begins to shift, where nostalgia stops being warm and safe and starts becoming a weapon. I wish I could tell you I stumbled across the tape in some ordinary way, that it was a random accident, a coincidence that could have happened to anyone. But the truth is, the way it came to me feels too deliberate, too targeted. It started online. I was up late one night, half distracted, scrolling through eBay for old VHS tapes. I collect weird stuff like that: bootlegs, test recordings, regional broadcasts that never made it to DVD. Most of it is junk, honestly. buried among the usual listings, I saw one that made me stop cold. The title was nothing special. Children's Programming VHS, 1999-2002. No description, no thumbnails, just a fuzzy stock photo of a blank black tape. The price, $5.99 with free shipping. Normally, I would have ignored it. But there was something strange in the listing details. A single sentence in the notes section that read, "Property of Viacom. Do not air." I don't know why those words hit me the way they did. Maybe because they felt official, like I was glimpsing something I wasn't supposed to. Maybe because deep down, I wanted it to be something forbidden. Against my better judgment, I clicked buy it now. The seller's username was nonsense, random letters and numbers, like someone had just smashed the keyboard. Their account history was almost empty. 2 items sold, 0 feedback. And here's the thing that still chills me. Hours after I placed my order, the account disappeared. Wiped clean, like it had never existed. Days later, the package arrived. No return address. Just a padded envelope that smelled faintly of mildew. The kind of scent that clings to things that have been sitting too long in the dark. Inside was a single VHS tape, unlabeled, except for a sticky note on the front. It said in rushed, almost frantic handwriting, "Don't let her finish." I stared at those words longer than I'd like to admit. What the hell was that supposed to mean? The tape itself was a standard T120, the kind used for recording up to 6 hours of content. Its plastic shell was scuffed, corners chipped, and across the spine in faded marker were the words, DORA6 Final. I wanted to believe it was a prank. Some edgy teenager trying to cash in on the Creepypasta craze. But when I held that tape in my hands, it felt heavier than it should have. As if the weight of it wasn't just plastic and magnetic film, but something else. Something pressing down. I checked the timecode etched faintly along the edge. It had a timestamp from October 12, 2002. That was the year Dora's 2nd season aired. I remember because I was still watching reruns back then. Curiosity clawed at me. I couldn't just not watch it. I wanted to know what was on there. What made someone put that sticky note? What made the seller vanish? I kept telling myself it would just be static, or maybe some old recording of commercials. Something boring. But when I slid the tape into my VCR, my hands were trembling. I hovered over the play button, my stomach tightening, my brain screaming that this was a bad idea. I thought about the note again. Don't let her finish. Finish what? A song? A game? The episode? The more I tried to rationalize it, the less sense it made. But the warning sat there, buzzing in my skull like a mosquito I couldn't swat. For a long time, I just sat there, remote in hand, staring at the static gray of the paused VCR screen. Every instinct told me not to press play. That once I did, I couldn't take it back. And then, like an idiot, Or maybe like someone who was never really given a choice. I pressed it anyway. The tape clicked, the static fizzled, and for a split second, I thought it would just be snow. Nothing. And maybe that would have been better. But then the screen flickered, and there she was, Dora. The episode opened almost exactly the way I remembered: the jungle backdrop, the bouncy music, the title card with those bright block letters. Except it didn't feel bright. The colors were too much, almost bleeding into one another, as if the saturation had been cranked up until the greens stabbed at my eyes and the purples burned. It was vibrant in the way spoiled fruit is vibrant, wrong, rotten beneath the surface. And then came her voice. You know, that cheery sing-song tone, the one that always sounded like she was on the verge of laughing. This wasn't that. It was slower, drawn out, like someone was dragging their fingers across a vinyl record to warp the pitch. When she said, "Hola, soy Dora," it didn't sound like a greeting. It sounded like a threat. The theme song followed, but something was off. At first, I couldn't place it. The melody was the same, the words were the same. But as I listened, my skin started to crawl. Then I realized the music was playing backwards, faintly, under the normal tune. A reverse track bleeding through. It created this dissonance, a sound you couldn't quite untangle, like a choir singing in a language you weren't supposed to understand. Boots appeared beside her, but his animation was jerky, like frames were missing. His grin was too wide, stretched just past where his cheeks should allow. And when he waved, the motion repeated twice, like a glitch. Then came the backpack. Only it didn't sound right. Instead of the cheerful backpack, backpack, jingle, the voice was warped, slowed to a droning chant. The zipper opened, but the inside was wrong. It wasn't cartoonish supplies, it was just darkness. An empty void. I could have sworn I heard something breathing inside it. The map was worse. When Dora pulled him out, his eyes were too large, pupils pinprick tiny, and when he sang his song, the words weren't words. They were muffled, reversed syllables, like someone had recorded the voice actor gasping underwater. I couldn't understand it, but the cadence was unmistakably a plea. And then Dora turned to the screen. She asked the first question, just like always. Do you see the forest? But instead of the usual pause, the silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10. 15. I remember staring at the screen, the remote heavy in my hand, waiting for her to move on. She didn't. She just stared, eyes unblinking, smile frozen, waiting for me to answer. Against my better judgment, I whispered, yes. Her smile widened, not a cartoon smile, too wide, too human. I should have stopped there. I should have ejected the tape, snapped it in half, thrown it in the trash. But I couldn't. Something about that silence, that expectant pause, had me hooked. Like she could hear me. Like she was waiting for me specifically. The episode continued, but every beat was wrong. The journey didn't follow the normal structure. The forest Dora pointed to wasn't lush and welcoming, it was dark, with branches like skeletal fingers. Swiper appeared briefly, But instead of his usual bumbling, he looked terrified. His eyes darted around as if he knew something I didn't. When Dora shouted, "Swiper, no swiping," her voice cracked, harsh and guttural, nothing like the playful chant I remembered. And then there was one thing Dora did, something I can't bring myself to describe. Not yet. Maybe not ever. All I'll say is this: it didn't belong in a children's cartoon. It didn't belong anywhere. I froze, staring, heart pounding, palms slick against the remote. The episode played on, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just seen something I wasn't supposed to. That if I tried to explain it, even now, it would be giving it power. When the screen finally cut to black, I sat there, stunned. The silence of my living room felt heavier than the silence Dora had left me with. My rational brain kept trying to explain it: bad animation, corrupted tape, some kind of parody. But deep down, I knew better. I had to be sure. I had to know if I imagined it or if it was really there. So I did the only thing I could. I rewound the tape, and I pressed play again. The second viewing was worse. I thought maybe I'd imagined it the first time, that my brain was filling in gaps. That fear was playing tricks on me. But no. If anything, the tape seemed clearer on the second playthrough, like it wanted me to notice what I'd missed. It didn't take long for Dora to start changing. She didn't bounce across the screen with that cheerful rhythm I remembered. She moved slowly, deliberately, like every frame of animation was being dragged forward against its will. Her head turned a fraction too far when she looked at me. Her eyes lingered. Then she asked, "Where are your parents?" Not in the playful, sing-song tone. Not with the smile of a cartoon guide. Her voice was flat, direct, the kind of voice that doesn't leave room for a wrong answer. I sat there, frozen. This wasn't part of the script. Dora didn't ask personal questions. She asked about forests, rivers, mountains. Not me. The silence stretched again. 10 seconds. 20. I could almost hear the faint hiss of the tape, like static waiting to swallow me whole if I didn't respond. And then I did something I still regret. I answered. I don't know why. My lips moved before my brain caught up. "They're asleep," I whispered, almost without realizing it. Dora smiled, not the wide, unnatural grin from before. This was smaller, more satisfied. She turned, and for the first time I realized something else was wrong. The map was gone. She didn't pull him out. She didn't sing his song. Instead, she reached into the backpack, except the backpack wasn't singing either. Its voice was silent. When she unzipped it, there was nothing inside, just a black void, swallowing the screen like a hole in the film. "You don't need them," she said. Her voice scraped at me, low and steady, like it was coming from the other side of the room instead of the television. I wanted to turn the tape off. God, I wanted to. But my thumb hovered uselessly over the stop button, frozen by something I still can't explain. That's when Swiper appeared. At first, I almost felt relieved. A familiar character, the comic relief, the bumbling villain who never really won. But this swiper was different. His fur was patchy, his eyes wide and frantic. He stumbled into the frame, shoulders hunched, trembling. And he wasn't trying to swipe anything. He was begging. "Please, Dora," he said, voice cracking, desperate. "Please, no more." My blood ran cold. Swiper never spoke like that. He was a joke, a punchline. But here he sounded real. Too real. Like someone behind that voice was truly terrified. Dora didn't respond at first. She just stared at him, unblinking. Then, slowly, she tilted her head. "Swiper," she said, almost tenderly. "Do you want to stop them?" Swiper shook his head violently. His whole body shook. "I don't want to play anymore," he whimpered. And Dora's smile spread wide, unnatural, tearing at the edges of her face. "Swiper, no swiping," she whispered. Except it didn't sound like a command. It sounded like a sentence. Swiper dropped to his knees, hands covering his face. His body twitched, glitched, blurred like the tape was trying to erase him. And then, just like that, he was gone. No puff of smoke, no cartoon effect. Just gone. The screen lingered on Dora's face. She turned toward me again. Her eyes were darker now, pupils swallowing the whites. She leaned closer, and I swear her voice came from directly behind me. "Why are you alone right now?" I couldn't breathe. My heart hammered against my ribs, and I found myself glancing around my living room as if she might actually be standing there. The silence after her question was unbearable, pressing against my ears until I thought they'd burst. And once again I answered. I hate myself for it, but I did. Because no one's here. Her smile twitched. For the briefest second, I thought I saw something move in the void of the backpack behind her, a shape shifting, curling, waiting. The rest of the episode blurred, but I remember it second by second, like a film strip burned into my eyelids. Dora walking through places I didn't recognize. The forest, but darker, with trees that seemed to breathe. Paths that led nowhere. And through it all, her questions. Why do you keep watching? Do you trust me? Would you follow me? I should have shut it off. I should have run, but I didn't. Instead, I sat there, hypnotized. Every detail searing itself into my brain, second by second.